What's up guys, Jaden Irwin here with Little Sticks. Today we're going to be going through a tutorial on how to do the GitHub copy code buttons. Hopefully that's something useful to anyone that has a blog or a website and they've got code blocks on their website. And you would just want to make it easy for people to hover over that or that code element and then copy whatever is inside of it. It's actually pretty simple to do. And the approach that I'm going to take hopefully kind of makes it portable too. So you can take this code, it's only a couple of files, and put it in really any environment. And the reason that that is the case is because we're actually going to be using a web component to do it. So if you aren't familiar with web components, a really popular web component package would be lit.dev or lit from Google. There are other ways to use web components and create web components. Lit isn't the only way. You can actually create a web component without a library like lit. We're just going to be using it because it does do some things for us in terms of reactivity. And just like they're saying on their site, it lets you kind of skip the boilerplate that's necessary for web components if you're just doing it in vanilla. So we're just going to be using this little tiny lit package to do that. You are going to see that I already have this markdown file too. It has this syntax highlighting, and it actually has some of the code that we're going to be writing right in here, and then some lorem ipsum underneath. So the reason why we have this working already is because I'm using Astro. You do not have to use Astro. This isn't an Astro tutorial really. This is a tutorial on these copy code buttons. That's what I'm calling them. I'm using Astro because it already has the syntax highlighting built in that just kind of is nice to look at. So by no means do you have to use Astro for this. It is just a vanilla, quote unquote vanilla tutorial. There is the lit package that we just talked about. So it's not quite vanilla, but it's close. So let's go ahead and get into it. You'll see here that I've got my Astro project working. We've got this index.md, that's where our markdown is at. And then we have this layout, this base.astro, which is really just an HTML layout. And then this main slot is where all of our content is being rendered into. So don't really have to cover that too much. There's not too much going on there. I did already create this copy code button folder. That's where all of our source code is going to go. And then this icons.js, it's just a couple of icons that I'm going to use. So really to start out, what I think we're going to do is actually create a new file, call it styles.css. And the first thing I want to do is take this pre element, and you'll notice that, let me preview this here. You'll notice that it doesn't really have any padding on it. It's not super pretty, and it's kind of hard to tell because I already have this dark background on it. But we're just going to clean it up a little bit. And to do that, we're going to just do pre overflow auto. And that's in case you have a lot of code. We just wanted to be able to scroll over automatically. We're going to do padding 1 rem, border radius. Let's do 0.5 rem, position relative. Cool. And that's going to be important here in a little bit. But now if we, oh, and we're not using that yet. So to import that with Astro, we're just going to do import styles and then styles.css. And it's actually not styles, it's copy code button /styles.css. With Astro, we can do this because of Vite. You could just go into your head, do a link rel style sheet and all, you know, like the vanilla way to pull in styles. But in our case, we're just going to go ahead and import it at the top here. Now, and let me just go out of dark mode. And it's actually not truly in dark mode. That's just the background that I had here. I think it's just going to be a little bit easier to see what's going on. And because I'm using CSS variables, that's super easy to just switch out. And now I've got a light and dark text, light background, dark text. And then there you go. We've got these pretty pre-code elements right there with some styles. So And then also what I was talking about, the overflow. If I go down to like a small size, notice that, see on the small screens, we don't want it to break like the words and everything. We just want it to be able to scroll left and right. So that's what we got going there. I'm going to go back to this full screen. And then let's go back. Our next step here is actually going to be creating this copy code button element. It's a lit element or a web component. So we're going to do copy code button .js. I'm going to do this in JavaScript. You can write your lit elements in TypeScript. If you know all about that, by all means, just go ahead and write it in TypeScript. But we're just going to be doing it in vanilla JS. And then all I've done so far too, I guess I should talk about the one package that we installed. So just npm install lit, and there you go. That's the only package that you need. Because this is an Astro project, we have Astro there. But you could do this in vanilla HTML if you wanted to. Let's see. So we are going to start. I have a extension already running. So if I just type out lit and then select lit template, it does this really cool thing where it actually reads the file name and does this like all the boilerplate that you need for a lit component, which this is all the boilerplate it is. So it's not very much. But if you are wondering what that is, it's lit snippets, I believe. Yeah, lit snippets is the extension. So maybe if you want to try that out, go ahead and install it in VS Code. Super useful for me when I write a lot of lit components. So there we go. Really just to break down what we have here. So export class, copy code button, extends lit element. That comes from the lit package. And then we've got our styles, and we've got a render function. So it's kind of like React in that way, right? You've got a render function. This is like a class React component. What we want is actually, we're going to type out button. And in our button, let's see, I'm going to cheat just a little bit. Our button is really just going to be the icons. So for now, let's just do the copy icon, and I'll show you how we can do that. So import, and I had, let's go back, icons.js, right? So import HTML from lit, export constant copy icon, and then check icon. So we are going to import the copy icon from icons. And let's just do that real quick. Now, let's just try to get this on page. So this is really the like magic part of this whole tutorial. We're going to create another file, and we're going to call it, let's call it create copy buttons.js. And this is very, very simple function. So let blocks equal document.querySelector all pre, and we're not going to do code. Copilot's helping out a little bit. Blocks for each. That's going to be a function for each. And then we're going to add a copy code button element to every pre element, if that makes sense. So let button equal document.create element. And we're not going to call it button, it's going to be copy code button. So copy code button is our actual web component element name that we have. So if we go this create copy buttons, let button equal document.create element, and then we are going to get these pre blocks, right? And we're going to take this individual block dot append child and button. So let button equal document.create element copy code button block.append child button. So all this is doing is it's going and getting every pre element on the page, and then it is appending one of these copy code button elements to that pre element. And let's just go ahead and use it. That might have been just gibberish, but let me, hopefully not, but let's just go ahead and use it. So we're just going to do a script tag in here. We're going to do import copy code button, create copy code buttons.js. Astro defaults to type module, right? you could just do script type module source and then this path, right? Just the vanilla way. But we're just going to use Vite and Astro in this case. Now, let's import that, make sure that it's working here. We're going to inspect on this pre element, and then you'll notice that copy code button. Just go a little bigger. So our pre element, and then we have copy code button right here. So that's being appended, just like we said, append child, to the bottom of the pre element. So we have copy code button. Now you might be wondering, okay, why can't I see it on page? And that's because this is a custom element and we haven't loaded in the JavaScript for that custom element. So the browser is rendering this element, but it doesn't know what to render. It's adding it to the DOM, it's adding it to the tree, but we haven't added our custom element yet. So to do that, we're just going to go back to VS Code. We're going to do another import, and we're going to import copy code button .js. Now, look at that. Copy code button is right there, and we've got our button. We can make sure that the JavaScript is running too with a very simple copy check function. We'll just do console log copy check, and then we're going to do @click equals copy check, and it should be this dot copy check because we are in a class. Let's go to our console. There you go. So the JavaScript's working. We have our element being loaded, and if we go and look at this in the DOM, our copy code button is rendering with a shadow root. So we won't go too far into shadow roots and all that, but we just know that it's rendering what we told it to render. So I am going to cheat a little bit on the styles, just so you're not seeing me type out some styles on a button. Nothing too special. Our host display inline flex, all that's saying is that this button itself, our element, the host of our element, should be an inline flex style instead of block. Not super necessary, but that does give us this style, right? So inline flex is our render, or our display, and then we have our button right here. So now you might be saying, okay, the button's in the wrong spot, and they're normally on the right side. So to do that, we're going to go back to our styles, and we're going to do pre copy code button, because it's just an element tag, right? Position, Copilot might be pretty spot on a lot of that, but we're going to take all that out. So position absolute, top 0.5 rem, right 0.5 rem. There you go. And that's why I added position relative to that pre element. So now it's being positioned on the top right over 0.5 rem and down 0.5 rem. So we've got our button, but it's not copying the pre element, right? So if I click that, it's just running our console log, right? So really the last piece of this is the copy function. There's a couple of ways to do this with JavaScript. I have like the overkill way to make sure for a fact that it does copy the pre element. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste it, to be honest, and then we'll explain it line by line. So copy code is our function. This dot is copied, so we would need to know, is it copied or not? We're going to do a constructor, and super this dot is copied equals false. So by default, the button is not copied, right? Or in a copied state. And then we are going to do static get properties. and then return, there we go, is copied type Boolean. So this is just kind of some lit stuff going on here with the constructor, the super, and then this is like internal state. So it knows globally across this element whether is copied is false or true. And that's happening inside of our copy code function. So copy code, we have this dot is copied equals true. So it is copied once this function gets called. And then this const pre equals this dot parent element. So the parent element of our copy code button is in fact a pre element, right? Child is copy code button, parent is pre. We're going to do let code equal pre.query selector code. So the code should be inside of the pre element. So we're going to target that and we want to copy it. And then we're doing range, document create range, range.select node. So we are selecting the code element, right? And then window.getSelection, remove all ranges, window.getSelection, add range. So we're making sure that there's nothing in the range, and then we are adding a range to that selection. So effectively, this is with JavaScript doing that right there, what I just did with my mouse. So it's programmatically highlighting that code element. You just can't see it when it gets called because it's doing it programmatically. Technically, this piece right here is our copy command. So this exec copy, it's kind of a deprecated method. It's not something that you should really be using anymore. Technically, you should be using navigator.clipboard write text, and then you're taking that range that you selected and converting it to a string. So we could simplify a lot of this with some modern JavaScript and do just navigator.clipboard, and then I believe you might even be able to get rid of the range aspect of it too. But we do want to make sure, even on browsers that don't support the new navigator.clipboard, we want to fall back to the old method of selecting a range and then running the copy command on that range. So basically what I just did, highlight and then copy. So this is kind of overkill, but it is making sure, you know, if someone's on a browser that doesn't support the modern clipboard methods, that it does fall back. And then we just have that in a try catch, right? So we're going to try navigator.clipboard the modern way, and then we will catch an error if we have one. And then we do at the bottom of that, we want to remove all ranges. So let's go back, highlight, right? Remove all ranges is just like if you click outside of whatever you selected. So we selected all, click outside, now it's no longer selected. So same thing. This set timeout, so we are doing this dot is copied equals false. So we're setting a timeout, and you're going to see how that works here in just 1 second. So we're going to go back to this copy icon. What we want to happen, have happen, is this copy check. That's actually now called copy code. This function, when it runs, we want to show the copy button by default, and then a check icon when it is copied, right? And that's with this is copied state. So let's go back here. We're going to do this dot is copied, and I have an underscore in front of that because it is private, right? It's internal, so that's just kind of a best practice to do there. So if this is copied, then we want to do the check icon, and if it's not copied, then we want to do copy icon. So let's go back. Now we can test this out. If we go ahead and click this, we should see our check icon. So we could also console log just to maybe be sure. Copying code. And then right here, we could do console.log copy to clipboard. So let's go to our console. So copying code and then copy to clipboard. So it did actually copy it. If we go to another tab and I just paste, there you go. You can see, and we can test this too. So let's go to another one. Click that. There you go. So it copied exactly what is in that pre-element. So that's really it. I know it might seem like a lot if you're not used to custom elements and web components, But the reason I picked this method is, like I said at the beginning, this is super portable. So this web component can be used in React, it can be used in Vue, it can be used in vanilla, just a vanilla HTML, CSS setup. It could be used in WordPress. Like you could take these couple of files are JavaScript for the actual copy code button. You could take this, 5 lines, 6 lines of code to create the copy code buttons across the site. And then our styles, right, for a couple of styles for the where to put the copy code button. So really like 3 files, and you have this moving wherever you want it to. Technically, you could take these icons and you could move them inside of this copy code button too, which I could show you that. Like, let's just go take these exports, right? And we'll go back. Let's just get rid of those, the imports. And it should still work, right? Because now everything is literally self-encapsulated in that file. And we'll probably take out those console logs too, in case you do end up copying this and using it. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty sweet that you can take something like this self-encapsulated function and move it wherever you want to with web components. So give it a shot. Let me know what you think. You probably have implemented this before too in another way with React or Vue or Svelte. I think this is just a really good use case for web components. So give it a shot. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.